Hare Krishna. Welcome to the study of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. We are discussing text 2. The first text discussed how the Bhagavatam describes the absolute truth and the connection of the absolute truth with the rest of existence, and how it is a meditation on a non-sectarian conception of the absolute truth. Now, in the next verse, in fact, in the next two verses, our first verse describes the absolute truth. Now, the second and third verses describe the way in which that absolute truth is conceived. That means there are different ways in which one can approach the absolute truth. So, what is the way in which one is approaching? One can approach the absolute truth for material gains. One can approach the absolute truth for purification. One can approach the absolute truth for liberation. One can approach the absolute truth for pure love, for selfless service. So what is the reason, what is the mode, what is the consciousness in which the Bhagavatam is approaching and the Bhagavatam urges us to approach? That's what we will discuss now in the second verse. So that is discussed in the second and third verses. The first three verses are very important for setting up the stage of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, dharma projita kaitavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavam astu shivadam tapatrayon moolanam Srimad Bhagavatam mahamuni krute kimva parairishvare sadyo hridya vruddhite atra krutibhi shushru shubhi statshanat. So, dharma projita kaitavotra. Kaitava means cheating or deceptive. That which appears one way but is actually another way. So what is Kaitava dharma? Bhagavatam is saying dharma projahita Kaitava. It is giving up Kaitava dharma. This will be elaborated again repeatedly in the Bhagavatam, but especially in 1.456, 5 and 6, the Narad Vyasa Samvad, which is foundational for understanding the distinctiveness, even the uniqueness of the Bhagavatam among the various literature in the world. So here it is said dharma projahita kaitava. So give up. Projahita means to give up completely. Srila Prabhupada would often translate this as kick out, sweep out with a broom, just dismiss completely. It's a strongly communicative word of negation or rejection or dismissal. Dharma projahita kaitavotra. So in the it is rejecting Kaitava dharma, cheating religion. That's what it's talking about. Now, what does this cheating religion refer to? Now, normally, what do we mean by cheating? If we pay for a first-hand commodity, if I pay for a laptop, if I go to a showroom and the laptop costs 60,000 and it's supposed to be a high-class laptop, and later on I find that it's a second-hand laptop which I could have well got for 20,000. I say that person cheated me. That means I get less than what I should have got or what I could have got. In exchange what I gave and what I could have got, it's much, much lesser. So when we get less than the potential, when we get then less what is fair, then that is what we call as cheating. So now dharma projita kaitava. Kaitava dharma means we get less out of human life by the practice of religion than what we could and should have. So human life is a platform for takeoff. It's a launching pad for catapulting us from the temporary world to the eternal world. And that transportation, that catapulting, that elevation happens for those who avoid the pitfall of materialism and even religious materialism. So materialism means we get attached to matter and material things, and that's why we have to continue on in the samsara chakra. Religious materialism means that one focuses on enjoying material things but by religious means. So in the Vedic scriptures there is this four aspects of Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. And they are important Purusharthas. Purusha Artha. The Purush word is used in a gender inclusive way to mean both males and females. So, Artha means purpose or goal. So, Purushartha refers to that which is the purpose of life. So the purpose of human existence is these four. One should do dharma, that itself is good, and that will also lead to artha, then that will lead to kama, and then ultimately it will lead to moksha. This progression we'll discuss again when we talk about from 2.6 to 22, the famous dharma verses. So, on which the Lord Srila Prabhupada's book Dharma, the Way to Transcendence, based on the lectures that he gave on those verses. Among the most oft-quoted verses in the Bhagavatam. Now, that dharma, artha, kama, which is basically religious materialism or material religiosity, and the difference between them is only in terms of words. Religious materialism means the emphasis on that one is still materialistic in one's conception. One thinks oneself some sort of creature connected with the body, and one thinks of bodily comfort and pleasure as the ultimate goal of life. So one is at the material level of consciousness. That is religious materialism. And in religious materialism, the only addition is, as differentiated from materialism, is that one doesn't want to violate the principles of religion. One uses those principles of religion to attain one's goals. Now, material religiosity means that there is religiosity, there is emphasis on the practice of religion. Okay, one does some puja, one does some pathan, one does some tirtha yatra, one does these activities, but one's conception remains material. So, whatever is the noun is the emphasis. So, there is religiosity, but there is material religiosity. We'll see the Bhagavatam condemns material religiosity also has one level of animalism. So, it says that tirtha buddhi salilena karachit janeshu abhigneshu saeva gokharaha. So a person who goes to holy places just to bathe in them and not to bathe in the wisdom that is coming from the lips of the great souls over there, such a person is just like an animal. Now, moving forward, we see that here the Bhagavatam is focusing on dharma kaitava, giving up kaitava dharma. That means dharma artha kama, which are primarily, as I said, religious materialism or material religiosity, projahita, cut them out. And moksha is also at one level a liberation. We know normally it means liberation, but at one level it is also the same self-centered level of consciousness, where one thinks, okay, I can't enjoy at the material level, so let me just get rid of the enjoyment and then liberation. In that sense, I want to become the supreme enjoyer. That is also in one sense wrong. So, dharma projayita kaitavotra paramo. So, paramo nirmatsaranam satam. So, paramo refers to the supreme, transcendental, the highest. Parama. So, nirmatsaranam satam. So, by giving up the lower religion, one practices the highest religion. The highest religion is centered on love for love's sake. So, whereas dharma, artha, kama, moksha, these fourfold goals of human life are glorified in other religions, the Bhagavatam says, put them aside. They are all cheating. Why? Because human life can give you something much more. So, if I put in 100 rupees and I can get something very valuable, but instead of that I get something worth only 1 rupee, then I have cheated myself. So, human life is something, if we invest that in God, then we can get eternal happiness in return. But if we don't do that, instead, we just invest in even material religiosity, in dharma, artha, kama, then what we get is a temporary result. We go to heavens, kshine punne martilokam vishanti. One comes back again to the earth. So it is not considered at all a glorious result because it is underutilization of our potential. Similarly, even liberation, it doesn't fulfill the heart's longing for love, and one stays dissatisfied because one doesn't get a reciprocation. So that's why just the impersonal liberation is not something which devotees look forward to. Devotees Kaivalya Narakayate. Prabodhananda Saraswati is a great Vaishnava. from the times of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he says that, I find it hellish. That liberation, which is considered the supreme goal of life by many spiritualists, a devotee considers hellish because Vinamat Sevanam Jana. The Kapila Dev, in his teaching, the third canto, says that if one does not get the opportunity to serve the Lord, then it is useless. So now, the Paramadharma is talking about. And what is Nirmatsaranam Satam? Satam are those who are saintly. So Sata, Sat, Chitananda, these are the three characteristics of the soul. So Sata refers to that which is eternal. That refers to the eternity feature of the soul. And Satam refers to those saintly people who are focused on the eternal, not on the temporary. Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha, ubhayor api drishtontas dvanayos tattvadarshibhi. In 2.16 Bhagavad Gita it said, na sato vidyate bhavo, that which is temporary, that cannot be attained, that which is eternal, that has no destruction. Asato vidyate bhavo, that is asata, that is temporary, it does not have any permanent existence, it does not have any actual existence. Na bhavo vidyate sataha, and asata, that is eternal, that has no cessation, it always continues to exist. Satam are those who focus on the sata. Now there are many transcendentalists who focus on the sata, but here a special characteristic of the transcendentalists, Nirmatsaranam. Nirmatsaranam refers to those who are non-envious. So, those who are not competing with others at their level of enjoyment. So, at the material level, there is always matsar, because someone has more and someone has less. And in fact, the whole of one of the biggest impetuses for material life is comparing others' possessions and trying to improve on them. And often people consider that not only I attain things, I become happy, but after attaining things, when I see envy in the eyes of others, then that brings me a special joy. So if I have a necklace, if I have a dress, if I have a car, which is better than that of my neighbors, my peers, my colleagues, then that is the perfection of my life. As the Bhagavad Gita also talks about this mentality in the description of the demoniac people, the ungodly people. 15.13 to 15, Krishna says, Konyosti sadrusho maya, who is there like me? There's no one. I am the best. Ishwaro aham bhogi, siddho aham balavan sukhe. I am the controller. I am the enjoyer. So nirmatsaranam means one who has just given up this whole business of material enjoyment and has no envy, because one doesn't have a competitive mentality. One doesn't get into this whole business of trying to grab more and gain more and enjoy more at the material level. So giving up the desire for material enjoyment is the way to rise above envy. And of course, at the highest level, it refers to being free from envy for the Supreme Lord also. Because the Supreme Lord is the supreme enjoyer, and as long as we want to enjoy like Him, then we stay in material existence. So we want to enjoy not like Him, but enjoy with Him. By serving Him, by giving Him enjoyment. So Nirmatsaranam Satam. So the Bhagavatam will reveal the highest level of Nirmatsarya in its adoration of the Ras Leela, where it glorifies as the highest revelation of God and the highest mode of devotion, offering oneself completely to God and offering to God all the enjoyments that people want in this world. So the gopis offer themselves, body, mind, heart, everything to Krishna. And Krishnendriyat piticha dhare premanam. So people want sense gratification over here. And there it is sense gratification offered to Krishna. So that is the highest level of Nirmatsarya. So the Bhagavatam, what it's going to teach, it can be relished by these kind of people who are Nirmatsaranam. And also by hearing the Bhagavatam, by hearing about these kind of souls, hearing about the Supreme Lord, our Matsarya will also go away. Krishna also talks about this repeatedly. Anasuyave. Arjuna, I'm speaking this knowledge to you because you are anasuyave. Idam tate guhyatamam pravakshamya anasuyave. 9.1 he says, this confidential knowledge, I'm speaking because non-envious. And he also tells, when he completes the Bhagavad Gita in 18.67, when he starts describing the Falshruti, describe these to those who are non-envious. Idam te na tapaskaya na bhaktaya kadachana na cha shushrusha vacham na cha mam yo abhisuyati. So, don't speak this, and he uses a list of categories of people, and he says that among them abhisuyati. Those who are envious, don't speak to them about this. So essentially, the envy can be generic when it's directed to people in general. It can be specific when it's directed towards a particular person, and it can be also directed toward the Supreme Lord. So we may not be free from envy, but to the extent we are free from envy, to that extent we will be able to relish the Bhagavatam. And just by hearing the Bhagavatam, we will move towards freedom from envy and relishing it. This is the aspiration. So we are talking about what is the mode in which the Bhagavatam is urging us to approach. And that is nirmatsaranam. And vedyam vastavam avastu shivadam tapatrayon mulanam. So it is offering us the vastava vastu. Vedyam, come to know about it. Veda means knowledge. Vedyam means to come to know about something. So vastava vastu. So come to know about the absolute truth. Vedyam vastavam atra vastu. Vastu is related to the vastava. Vastava is real. Vastu is that which actually exists truly. So Vedyam, come to know about it. Vastava vastu, come to know about the real truth. So, in one sense, the supreme absolute truth is the supreme reality. And everything else is real, but it is temporary. It is temporal. And in that sense, it is not the supreme reality. So the Bhagavatam shifts from, raises our consciousness from the body to the soul, from the soul to the Bhagavan and to his abode. So he is the supreme reality, and that is the object that we'll be meditating on in the Bhagavatam. Now, our meditation shapes our destination. This happens practically also. If I think about eating, then I'll start feeling some hunger in my stomach. It will be often pseudo-hunger. I'm not actually hungry, but I simply feel hungry because I am thinking about food. That creates desire. And then, what is my destination? I will go to the kitchen and try to find something to eat. I'll go to a shop and purchase something. I will order something, and some fast food person will come and deliver something at my home. So then I'll end up eating. So our meditation determines our destination. And this applies also, say, if a person is a drunkard, if a person thinks of meditation, then the person will think of drinking alcohol. The person will end up drunk. But this applies at a much longer level, broader, longer level also. So, yam yam va pismaran bhavam tejatyante kalevaram tam tam evaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitaha. So, what Krishna describes over here is that whatever we meditate on, that's what we will attain in our next life. Whatever we think of in this life, we will think of at the time of death. What we think of at the time of death, we will attain in the next life. That's what Krishna talks about in 8.6 and 7. So he says, what we think of, we'll attain at the time of death. That's 8.6. 8.7 says, therefore think of me, then you will attain me. So here, what is the result of the previous verse talked about dhimahi, meditate on the Supreme Lord. So this verse says, if we do dhimahi, if we meditate on the Supreme Lord, then what will happen? On that Supreme Lord, who is Vedyam, Vastavam Atra Vastu. So when we come to know about him, Vastavam Atra Vastu, Shivadam Tapatrayon Mulanam. Shivadam. Shiva refers to a person as well as a condition. So it's a condition of auspiciousness is Shiva, and the person who brings about that auspiciousness is also called as Shiva. So the Vishnu Sahasranam refers to Lord Vishnu himself as Shiva. Sarva Sharva Shiva Sthanur Bhutadhir Nidhiravya. So he's Shiva, Sarva. So he's auspicious. Now, one particular person who is especially meant to bring auspiciousness in the life of the inauspicious, that is Lord Shankara. He especially is merciful to those in the mode of ignorance, and he raises them. So he also has the name Shiva. So here, Shiva Dam. Dam means to give. So this will give us auspiciousness. So, for example, if I'm sick and I get a medicine, then that medicine brings auspiciousness in my life. So here, Shivadam, this will bring auspiciousness. What kind of auspiciousness? Tapatrayonmulanam. Tapatraya, the threefold miseries that are there, unmulanam. It will be uprooted, ripped out completely, thoroughly destroyed. So, that is, even liberation, it does not necessarily destroy the disease completely, because liberation removes our material desires, but liberation does not, in fact, inject spiritual desires within us. It is only bhakti that injects spiritual desires within us. So it's like if you consider ordinate a y-axis, then liberation moves us from the negative axis to zero. But it's bhakti which moves us from the negative axis to not only zero, but beyond to the positive axis. So this is the supreme auspiciousness, that our desires which cause us bondage and suffering in this world, they, if we direct them towards the Supreme Lord, they will bring liberation. That theme will be discussed in the next verse. We'll discuss that. But when we come to that verse. But here, the point is, Vedyam. If we do Vedyam, the result of that will be Tapatraya Unmulanam. Unmulanam. There will be uprooting of the Tapatraya, of the threefold miseries of material existence. And the Bhagavad Gita on 4.9 also talks about this. If we come to know Krishna in truth, Tattvataha, here it is Vedyam. Bhagavad Gita is Tattvataha. Janma karma chame divyam. Evam yovati Tattvataha. Tyaktva deham punarjanma. Naiti mameti so Arjuna. So it says that if we come to know about Krishna, then the result of that is we will not come back to the cycle of birth and death. So Tapatraya refers to threefold miseries, which are imminent and inevitable for everyone in material existence, sooner or later. You know, they are like three spears, a three-pronged spear, a trishul, which pierces the hearts and lives of all living entities in material existence, the Adhyatmic, Adhibhautik and Adidaivik Klesha. So, here, so the first line, let's go back now. The Bhagavatam will describe that religion, Dharma Projita Kaitavatra. So, it will give up all lower levels of religion. And this level of religion is actually practiced and realized by the Nirmatsaranam Satam. It is Param, it is the highest level of religion. What does it involve? It involves knowing the true absolute truth. Vastavam atra vastu, knowing the actual substantive principle, the true substantial reality. The ultimate substantive principle was the word which Bhakti Thakur would use to describe Krishna in his Brahma Samhita. So now, and what is the result of knowing that absolute truth? The result is that Tapatraya Unmulanam, all our miseries will be eradicated. And what is the result of that? Or what is further characteristic of that? Now, Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kimva Parairishwaraha. So, Srimad Bhagavata is such a glorious book. Srimad Bhagavata. This has various names. So, the book itself often is called as Bhagavad Puran. That is a common name. Srila Prabhupada preferred to use the word Srimad Bhagavatam. So, the Gaudiya Acharyas also, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also uses the word Srimad Bhagavatam, as is described in the first commentary within our tradition on the Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Manjusha. So, there is Pramanam Amala. It's Amala Puran or the Amala Praman. So, Srimad Bhagavate. So, that which is related to Bhagavan is called as Bhagavata. And Srimad, that which is filled with Shri, that is filled with wealth, opulence, auspiciousness, glory. So this is the book about Bhagavan which is filled with all auspiciousness. Srimad Bhagavate. Mahamuni Krite. Mahamuni Krite. So who is this Mahamuni? Now we understand that this is the invocation going on. So different acharyas have explained differently. Now Jiva Goswami explains in his Kramasandarbha. The Kramasandarbha is like a commentary on the Bhagavatam, which is, he doesn't necessarily go into all the verses to comment on them, but he comments on important verses. And there he says that this verse focuses, it refers to Nar Narayan Rishi. And the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the different paramparas through which the knowledge of the Bhagavatam is coming is described. So one such parampara is through Narnara and Rishi. It comes down. And that is also mentioned in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam when Narad Muni goes to Narnara and Rishi and learns from him. Now we know in the Bhagavatam there is one more tradition that is described, that Krishna gives the knowledge to Brahma, Brahma gives the knowledge to Narada, Narada gives the knowledge to Vyasa, and that's how it comes. That's one tradition. Now it's not that one cannot learn from other traditions also. So Narada also goes and inquires from Narnara Rishi. And Narnara Rishi is also an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. So he is the Supreme Lord himself in one sense. So it is that great person who has compiled it. Now Mahamuni Krite can also refer to Vyasadeva. So now, is it that Vyasadeva is referring to himself as Mahamuni? It may seem a little odd for a person to glorify oneself like that. Now one understands that actually, even if that is the case, that even if we say this is referring to Vyasadeva, then we understand that the devotee glorifies himself at all. It is not to glorify oneself, but to position one's message properly. Now, for example, Srila Prabhupada would write at the end of his purports, that's the end of the Bhaktivedanta purports. Now, Bhaktivedanta purports. Now, the name Bhaktivedanta may itself sound a little pompous and self-glorificatory. Now, somebody who is the master of Vedanta and knows that Bhakti is the end of Veda, and there's such a person who is so learned, that's the person writing the purports. So he could have just used the word Abhay Charan, or he could have used Swami, but he had been given a title, Bhaktivedanta Swami, and he used that title. And he also had the title Prabhupada, and he used the title Prabhupada also. So the point is that Mahamuni is a title which is bestowed upon Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva is simply using that title to indicate the glory of the wisdom that is being given. So when Srila Prabhupada uses the word Bhaktivedanta, it's a title given to him by his peers, by his senior god brothers during his times. So that indicates that what he is speaking is not ordinary, it's glorious. So similarly, Mahamuni is a title which is bestowed upon Vyasadeva, and he is using that to glorify, to position and glorify the message that he is giving. So normally, if we know who is the author of a book, then if we know the author is a very respectable, very learned person, then we take the message also seriously. So a devotee's concern is to ensure that the message reaches a large number of people, and the message gets a proper pedestal for reaching that kind of people. And for that, if a devotee has to position oneself, just as devotees may sometimes while giving classes introduce, and they may tell their credentials. That is not to glorify themselves, not to blow their own trumpet, but to ensure that the message they are giving gets proper reception. So Mahamuni Krite, Mahamuni will also Krite, that's compiled by him. So this will also be in one other sense that he was in his full maturity after he had written all the books, when he found that those books were did not satisfy his heart, and they would not have satisfied the hearts of others also. So therefore he decided to write this book. So in his spiritual maturity, as Prabhupada said, that will be revealed in the 5th, 6th chapters of the Bhagavatam. Kim va parairishvara. So kim va parair. What else is required? That means you don't need any other book. One book is enough. So what is the special result of this book? What will happen? Now previously it was said that it will lead to tapatrayonmulanam, that the tapatra will be uprooted. But here, how exactly that will happen? Sadhyo rudya avrudyate atra kritibhi shushrushabhi takshanat. As soon as one hears this Bhagavatam, shushrubhi, one submissively hears it, then rudya avrudyate, one manifests. Who manifests? That Parama, that Supreme Lord, that Absolute Truth, Vedyam Vastavam, that Absolute Truth, that Bhagavan, Sri Krishna, he will manifest in the heart. Sadhyo, soon, takshanat. So actually, immediately, without delay. So actually, this is the special potency of the Bhagavatam. Because it's such a pure and power-packed message, and especially when it is received through the great devotees, it invokes the presence of the Lord in our heart. And ultimately, that is the purpose and perfection of existence. That actually, we want to develop love for Krishna. Because that love for Krishna will make us satisfied even in this world and ultimately take us beyond this world to the transcendental world, where we will also live eternally with Krishna. So therefore, when we understand this ultimate purpose and understand that the Bhagavatam is going to fulfill that purpose, Kimva Parairishvara, why does one need anything else? Why does one need any other sadhana? Simply hear the Bhagavatam and all perfection will be achieved. So Bhakti Thakur would say that if all the books in the world were destroyed but the Bhagavatam remained, then nothing would be lost. Now this is not an exclusivist glorification, this is a contextualist glorification. So what does that mean? That means other books which lead one to the Bhagavatam are not rejected by this. So for example, Bhagavad Gita, which will lead us to the Bhagavatam, that is wonderful. Which is CC, which elaborates on the Bhagavatam, that is also wonderful. So the point is that this book gives the message of pure love for God, and it is that message of pure love for God that is sufficient, and one doesn't need anything else when one is aspiring for the ultimate goal of life. So in this way, the mode of approach to the Supreme Lord in pure love, nirmatsaranam, rejecting lower principles of religion, dharma prajita kaitavata, and then the result of what kind of absolute truth we approach? We not approach a material conception of God who will give us material things, but vasta vastu approach. And then because we are approaching at a spiritual level, we rise to a spiritual level, tapatre unmulnam. And this whole conception of approaching God at a level of pure spiritual love, that is the speciality of Srimad Bhagavatam. And that is the speciality of the Mahamuni Krite, that sage who wrote many other books, and then finally he wrote this in the zenith, the summit of his spiritual evolution. So that book is now Kimva Parai. Why do we need any other book? Because just by hearing this book, the all-attractive Supreme Lord, to whom devotion brings the supreme liberation, that Lord is manifest in our heart. And therefore, we do not need anything else. So this is the glory of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that if we hear regularly, our goal is not simply to become Pandits of Bhagavatam. If we become Pandits, that's wonderful. We can use that in the service of Krishna. We can use that in increasing our own contemplation and attraction to Krishna. Our goal is simply to, first of all, become lovers of Krishna, to have Krishna's presence manifest in our heart. And that is what hearing the Bhagavatam in the association of the Bhagavatas will enable us to do. Thank you. Hare Krishna. We'll continue in our next session and we'll discuss the third verse. The first three verses we are discussing separate separate half-an-hour classes, and then we'll move faster, taking several verses in one session when we move forward to the later verses. The first three verses are extremely important. They have a wealth of meaning, and that's why they require elaborate discussion. We know that Bhakti Thakur spoke weeks and weeks just in the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Madhusudan Saraswati wrote a full commentary on the first verse, Srimad Bhagavata Pratham Shloka Tatparya. So these are very important verses which set the scene, which determine the mood, and they tell us what is the uniqueness that is going to be found in the Bhagavatam. So we are having separate classes on this, first three verses, and then we'll move faster. Thank you. Hare Krishna.